they are feeling very cut off, and to some extent have other people pull back from them because they have been touched by this awful disease.
But would that not be probably because the people who are pulling back from them are afraid? Now, COVID is universal. It is not choosy. It doesn't play favorites.
Yes.
It can happen to the person who's pulling back also. This is because they're afraid, right?
It's because people are afraid. People are afraid of the contagion. People are afraid that, well, if it has struck so close to home, maybe it will strike me too. And sadly, how people then tend to react is by pulling back further, which obviously is more distressing for families who need help and togetherness at that point.
It's not social distancing, but it is physical distancing.
A lot is being done to promote the message that it is about understanding this is a biological problem. It is a contagious illness in terms of your physical distance. You're not going to get COVID by talking to someone on the phone. You're not going to get COVID by messaging someone, and all the more now to understand that because that physical closeness, the casual passing by people and chatting face to face is not going to happen, we are going to have to make much more of an effort to connect to people, especially people who need us to be there for them. So, actually reach out, talk to someone. If you think someone's been affected by this, nothing to stop you. You should actually be talking to them more, messaging them more, say whatever I can offer from where I am at, I'm willing to do. I think that is very important as a mindset.
Physical distance, emotional closeness, and social togetherness.
Absolutely.
We talk about elders, we talk about grown-ups, we talk about family structures, but we know the children are going through a lot of trauma because of this. They cannot be themselves. They cannot meet their friends. Only now a few play dates have happened. Parents are frustrated. They are frustrated.
Definitely. I think children are under-recognized as also being exposed to this crisis. We do not realize, frankly, as adults, how much the children are listening and learning about how aware they are about what's going on in the world.
Oh, this I must tell you, because you said this. So there is this friend of mine, and he shares this little video of his niece on my Instagram. And the niece comes and she's shouting to her mother and saying, "Appa has gone out. If COVID comes and catches him, what will I do?" People found it cute. I found it upsetting. The child was scared, petrified, was terrified.
As responsible parents, we need to be aware of how frightening this is for children, especially for children who may not understand the context and understand what's being reported. Given that in the interest of publicizing it, sometimes it is frightening. It's being played out like a live update of a catastrophic horror story going on now for over 100 days. So, what I would say is to first be aware that your child is hearing and seeing and getting a lot of information about the current crisis. The second thing is to then, as a responsible parent, try to educate your child and involve them as much as possible in conversations about the illness. Keep that window of communication always open. What are you worried about? What do you think about what we heard just now? And what is scaring you about all of this? Keeping a lot of time. I think that's the one thing. We have a lot more parent-child time now. Take advantage of it to keep communication open. There should be no kind of, you're too young to know about that, or, oh, you won't understand that. Don't talk down to your children. Try to simplify, but explain with a balance of reassurance and caution. I think sadly there are some parents who are getting so terrified themselves that they're passing a lot of fear onto their children. A balanced view is important. Keep telling them, yes, there's something going on, but there's stuff we can do to stay safe, and we're going to try to keep that balance and stay positive. And positive talk from parents that will help children, not be scarred by this in the long term.
And if the children are going to be happy by that much parental involvement, the parents are also going to be more grounded and in better mental health.
Absolutely.
Because the children's restlessness also frustrates parents, because they can't entertain them and teach them and get their computers for online classes and everything going at the same time. It's hard for parents.
Absolutely. It's about parents being very empathetic to understand that any behavioral changes or irritability they're seeing in their children, to just take a step back and say that they're stressed. Well, I'm stressed about my job, you're stressed about this, the kids are stressed because crazy stuff is happening. So, let's all support each other as a family.
Kids are stressed about life. And while the entire world is going to be losing a long stretch in terms of this education time and exams, isn't it okay for the children to lose a little time?
I fully think so. I mean, I don't see why anyone would be worried about time lost with education. All the more so because everything has gone into limbo. And, as an aside note, I think we already put too much pressure on class 12 and a critical period and things, where children lose the perspective that there is so much more to life, and in general, so much more time and so many more opportunities. And, this is not the be all and end all. So I think there should be a lot more of taking the foot off the pedal and saying, okay, we're all going through a weird time. It may be this full year. Well, we'll look back at this as the year we survived through this and grew stronger. I have an optimistic view that families who want to bond better and grow together and mature together can do it. But dysfunctional families will go the opposite way. So, it's important for everyone to be supportive and positive in this situation.
We have gone through lockdown 1, 2, 3, 4, 4.5. I would say 4 and 1/3. Okay, and we are on a vague 5. The rest of the world is the rest of the world, but here where we are, it's really got to the core of people.
Yes.
Has there been an uptick in incidents of depression?
Definitely, we are seeing a whole lot more mental health issues, and I would highlight in people who have never experienced mental health problems before, who have prided themselves on being resilient, capable and positive people. So it's important to know that anyone can be mentally affected. It's not a sign of weakness or an inability to cope. It doesn't pick who it mentally affects.
I believe that I'm one of the strongest people I know. My friends would concur. During lockdown, I've gone through a week where I would call it catatonic. I couldn't do anything. All I did was cry. But it does something to us. This lockdown did something. What did it do?
It's a combination of two things. One was the whole aspect of that there is this virus that could kill you, that could kill thousands of people, that could totally change the environment you're in. So in some ways, there is this threat that we've never heard of before. Like hundreds of movies we've seen where we're all fine, suddenly there's this threat that could change our very way of life. Contagion and helplessness, because it's to do with disease. It's not something that guns or money or anything else can fight. Second factor has also been the sheer amount of information, confusion, conflicting information, fake news, everything that has been circulated around. So everyone is in a state of informational chaos.
And we're all experts. I mean, end of the day, we are all epidemiologists.
Absolutely. Everyone, WhatsApp groups have now become scientific papers. Well, I saw a study that, and well, I'll have you know that this. And the problem is there is no clarity, because even now there is no clear answer about the questions that everyone wants to know the answers to. Will I die if I get it? Will I survive if I get it? If I just go to my shop, will I get it? And third is obviously the impact of the lockdown itself. We are used to a huge social structure. Our friends, people we meet, just go out there and be out there. And all of a sudden, it's like house arrest for all of us. And everything has just been taken away. Furthermore, for people where their very employment, their very wages, that is an even extra level. Oh, this pandemic has come. By the way, you don't have a job. Good luck with that. All those are stressful.
There was supposed to be no job cuts. There was supposed to be no salary cuts. But it has happened. And many are living under that fear. Also, the imbalance is greater in households as to who goes back to work at the end of this. Who starts looking for a job? Will there be jobs? Financial constraint on a larger level in terms of country and company are big. But for the individual, it's bread and butter, rice and rasam. It is, and that is causing a lot of attrition within the family.
Absolutely. Lower class, where, as we know about migrant labor and the immigration, but the fact is that if they are not paid that day or that week, they will starve. So you can only imagine when things are in limbo for months now, how much of an impact that has on day-to-day life. And even with a straight out middle class, where a monthly salary is keeping rent and sustenance going, and that is suddenly taken away, and there's no clarity. Will the situation improve next month? We don't know. Will it improve in 3 months? We don't know. Will we go under in a few months? We don't know. So it is that sheer uncertainty and going back to facing the reality of poverty is a huge stress.
And that has thrown up suicidal tendencies?
A lot. Definitely, we are seeing a lot more of a depression reaction. So not just anxiety about the illness or what if I get unwell, but for people who are saying, well, the illness is a remote possibility, there's a harsh reality that so many different things. Financially, there is a problem. In family relationships, there is a problem. As we talked about earlier, domestic violence is on the rise. People are taking out their frustration on each other, and domestic violence is escalating.
பெண்களுக்கு எதிரே இழைக்கப்படும் வன்முறைகளில் தலையாய ஒன்று தான் அங்கே இல்லத்திலேயே அவங்களுக்கு எதிரே இழைக்கப்படும் வன்முறை, டொமஸ்டிக் வயலன்ஸ்.
Assalamu alaikum, vanakkam. Today I'm here to talk to you about domestic violence, அதாவது வீட்டுக்குள்ள நடக்கும் வன்முறை. இது யாரோட வேணாலும் நடக்கலாம், but mostly the victims women தான் இருப்பாங்க. Rich, poor, educated, uneducated, doesn't matter. This happens in all kinds of households.
பல பெண்கள் இந்த லாக்டவுனில் வந்து குடும்ப கொடுமைகள் வந்து அனுப்பிச்சிட்டு இருக்காங்க. அதாவது வந்து டொமஸ்டிக் அப்யூஸ். அந்த பெண்களுக்கு வந்து ஒரு வழி இல்லாமல் தப்பிக்க முடியாமல் வீட்டில் மாட்டிக்கிட்டு இருக்காங்க. அவங்களுக்கு ஒரு ஹெல்ப் லைன் இருக்குது. இந்த நம்பருக்கு ஃபோன் பண்ணால் கண்டிப்பாக ஹெல்ப் வரும். உங்களுக்கு தெரிஞ்ச அத்தனை பெண்களுக்கும் இந்த நம்பருக்கு கொடுங்க. ஏன்னா உங்களுக்கு தெரியாமல் கூட இது அவங்க வீட்டுக்குள்ள நடந்துக்கிட்டு இருக்கலாம்.
I'm going to share the number with you and I want you to spread it out to all the women out there. யாருக்கு இப்போ இந்த நம்பர் ஹெல்ப்ஃபுல்லா இருக்க போறது நமக்கு தெரியாது.
ஒன்று 800 102 7282. இந்த நம்பரை உங்களுக்கு தெரிஞ்ச எல்லா பெண்களுக்கும் ஷேர் பண்ணுங்க. வயசு வித்தியாசம், அந்தஸ்து வித்தியாசம் பார்க்காம ஷேர் பண்ணுங்க. இதை ஷேர் பண்ணும்போது கொஞ்சம் ரகசியமா ஷேர் பண்ணுங்க. குழந்தைங்க முன்னாடி இதை ஷேர் பண்ண வேணாம்.
Please pass on this number and help will come.
I'm requesting you guys to come forward. God bless.
இணைந்த நம் பெண்களை நாம் காப்போம். நன்றி, வணக்கம்.
With alcoholism, a lot of paradoxical effects. There's some people who are drinking more. There's some people who were alcoholic who now don't have access to alcohol and are then experiencing psychiatric symptoms as a result. But definitely with a combination of all this, we are seeing a lot more of depression reactions, a lot more of people having suicidal thoughts. We know that definitely in many places there are people who perhaps have been struggling and managing with depression, and now this isolation and these factors have tipped them into committing suicide. It is a harsh reality of what's happening.
What should they do when you know that you're spiraling out of control, but there is that bit of survival instinct that does kick in? Whom should they reach? Is there a number that they can call, or when it's too loud in their mind?